So, good morning or good night, depending on where you are, and welcome to another interview of The Shield Doing a Couch. I'm your host, Hector, and today we have Edmund Ciarfella, or Ed for short, and he's the guitar player and vocalist for the band Laces Out. Laces Out is a post-hardcore band from New York City, and we're here to talk about the EP they dropped earlier this year and the new full-length debut album that they have coming out this week. So first of all, Ed, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. We're actually not from New York City. We're actually from a little upstate.
Okay.
New York's a big state.
Oh
So
yeah, it is a big state. So they're not from New York City. Where in New York are you located?
we're like an hour and a half out of the city, upstate, called Orange County, New York.
Orange County, New York. Nice. It's you're almost there. So
Almost.
yeah. So Laces Out. I was wondering, is that a reference to Ace Ventura?
It is.
Yeah, I figured it had to be a reference to Ace Ventura. So I know you and other people in the band, you've been around the scene for 20 years, and you decided to start Laces Out. I know you had an EP that you put out in 2017, and then you put out this EP, an EP this year, and now you're putting out the full length. So uh, tell me a little bit about the history of how you guys got together.
Oh, sure. Um, I and the drummer and actually the bass player for a little while were in another band previously called Pigeon, that played quite a bit, probably about 5 or 6 years. We had another singer, and the drummer and I have played music together since we were kids. So probably started playing, uh, I want to say maybe over 20 years ago. Um, and playing in our in his attic, and we would start little projects here and there, and eventually one of them turned into something, and we played as Pigeon, and um, that was with Phil Pagliaro on vocals and Adam Papanester on guitar, and I was actually playing bass at the time, and Steve, who's still the drummer today. We were all uh, playing in that band for quite some time, which was a similar genre, maybe a little bit more rooted in, more kind of emo, but definitely a similar genre. The vocalist kind of, we went with what he was kind of working at, as far as his ability, and he really liked like Bear vs. Shark, and those Midwest kind of screamo bands and stuff like that. So we kind of catered the tunes a little bit more in that realm. And then that band kind of dissolved after a while, just because life stuff, people's jobs, all that. Um, and by that time, towards the end of Pigeon, I was playing guitar. We got a new bass player, Ray Wozneski, and after that band dissolved, we still wanted to keep going, so we started Laces Out. That's pretty much it, really.
Nice. So the you put an EP in July, the Roger Podacter EP, and now you're putting out the new album. Uh, so you worked on both of them throughout the pandemic, correct?
Yeah, yeah. We wrote a majority of the songs. No, I would say we wrote about half of the songs pre-pandemic, and then the second half we didn't have much to do during the pandemic, so it's easy to write.
So why did you decide to divide first that EP and now the full length and not combine them together?
I'm sorry.
Oh, I know that you released the EP a few months ago, Roger Proctor, but now you're releasing here at the Ashram. Like,
Mm.
why didn't you like put the whole? Because I know the EP is 4 songs. Why didn't you put them together as an album? Why did you divide it for first an
Well,
EP and then the album?
yeah, that's a great question. I think my thinking, and a lot of our thinking, was that people aren't listening to whole albums as much anymore. And as cool as it would be to put 15 songs on a record, um it pops a little bit better if you release a little bit of songs at a time, right? So we released an EP with 4 songs on it. That we really, we really like those songs a lot. Also, some of the songs on the EP just I didn't feel really fit with the songs that we're releasing on the full length. So, we wanted to give them a home because we really do love the songs. It's just they were a bit different, a little bit maybe a different vibe or whatever. So we decided to kind of just split them up. And also, it's always cool to have an EP and an LP and release them kind of close together, So
I mean, it's cool. And I listened to both the EP and the album, and yeah, the EP is a little bit like harsher. Like the music is more in your face, harsher, and I think the full length has like a little bit more like different styles between the songs.
yeah, I would agree. Yeah.
Uh,
There is a song on the EP that is a bit more on the mellow end of things. It's a little slower.
that's
And that was kind
Consequences,
of,
right? I'm trying to remember if that was Consequences, the song.
oh
That's a
geez.
little bit more mellow, the Consequences one.
Yeah, possibly, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I Consequences has there was a little bit of a challenge with I think it's right on the EP, but it's incorrect on the Spotify. So they're flipped, the two songs and the names.
Oh yeah,
So
on the Spotify, they have it at number 3, so maybe it's the wrong. Oh, that happens sometimes. I hate it. Yeah,
yeah,
that they flip it
we
and
just
it's
said whatever. We're gonna go and redo everything. I think it's right on the tape though.
okay. That's the important thing. So yeah, but yeah, I thought the Roger Podacter EP was like more harsher in your face,
I
and
would agree.
the the full length album I like it because it sounds very 90s. It says post hardcore, but I heard a lot of like alternative and some melodies in the singing on it. So the full length, like I know it's 9 songs. Like, what themes do you cover in this full length?
With themes?
Yeah, what themes do you
Oh,
cover
like
in
yeah.
songs?
So even though we're called Laces Out and the EP and the record are references to lines from, Roger Podacter is a character in Ace Ventura. Here at the ashram is where they find Ace Ventura in the second movie. He's in an ashram in the beginning of the movie.
Like, I can't remember that movie that well, but it
Oh
seems
yeah,
like it's your
it's
favorite.
just yeah, it's our favorite. That was the thing. A lot of me and the drummer and even the bass player, it was just a kind of an inside joke, I guess. None of the actual songs have anything to do with Ace Ventura at all. It was just kind of something that we kind of played on. The content of the songs is really, I would say it's just mostly like, you know, dealing with different emotions, and like it's a very simple. Most of the songs have a very simple idea. I don't try and complicate things too much in the writing. I the pretty much, I would say the theme would be, just kind of dealing with life, like very, very basic, human need to kind of get through the day, you
Oh
know?
yeah, no, and I love the album Closer, The Truth Tolls. I
Yeah,
thought
that's
yeah,
that's a fun
and
song.
the starter too, Kick and Scream, Chemicals, very catchy songs, and they have aggressive in some parts, but when to pull away from the aggressiveness. So yeah, I thought it was quite interesting. So for you, Ed, like, what bands growing up influence like the sound of Laces Out?
Oh, sure. I want to pick a bunch of like really cool no name bands, but honestly, it comes down to I'm a huge Fugazi fan. I think
That's
that
a that's a that's a name I know.
no, that's what I'm saying. I want to pick a
So,
bunch of cool bands to throw out there, but really, it comes down to like I was like a huge Fugazi fan, old school punk rock, um like Mission of Burma, Ramones, stuff like that. Um, Bear vs. Shark is a pretty huge influence from the more Midwest screamo kind of element. Um, At the Drive-In is a huge influence as well. That was like a really formative band for me. Um, yeah, I would say. And then, obviously, yeah, you say it sounds like 90s alternative rock. Well, I grew up listening to, when we were kids, before we can go and, find new bands or go to shows, keep in mind it's a little bit pre-internet too, right? Like our era, I'm 35, so our era is kind of that morphing into like Napster and
No,
Kaza and all
I'm
those.
45, so I grew
Okay.
up in the 90s.
So yeah, so there was a kind of a transition on where you got your music, right? So in the beginning,
Mhm.
I was listening to like, whatever was on the radio at the time. There was alternative stations up here, so I got a lot of Nirvana and Foo Fighters and the occasional Korn and Slipknot and all that kind of stuff. And then that kind of morphed into learning about local shows when I was 14 and going and seeing guys that were maybe and women that were maybe a bit older than me, in their 20s, playing like really aggressive punk and hardcore and metal. And that kind of just kind of blew up from there for me, So I want to say, bands like Fugazi, At the Drive-In, Bear vs. Shark, but I would be wrong if I wouldn't, pay some homage to the bands I grew up going and seeing, bands that nobody would know, but they're really big influences on me as I was growing up. People that became friends of mine later down the road, So
Yeah,
yeah,
sometimes those bands that are less known, they're really good. It's a shame that they're not known, but yeah. So the album coming out this Friday, and I see you're just gonna come out digitally, and it's also going to come out as a vinyl
yeah,
through through Nefarious Industries. So yeah, that's really cool that you have to put it out on vinyl. Right now vinyl is like really hot again. Uh, in the 90s, I never knew anyone that owned vinyl. I remember my
no
father's
CDs,
had
yeah.
vinyl, but like it was all the CD craze. So I'm gonna show the artwork for the new album. So the title of the album, it's funny that you mentioned it's something from Ace Ventura. Uh, is the album artwork, what exactly does the album artwork convey? Because it's interesting, but I don't know what it is.
Yeah, of course. So this is it just, I don't know, it's just cool to look at to me. Like our we recently added a member to the band. He's not on any of the records. He'll be on the next recording that we put out, but he's quite the artist, and he does all kinds of interesting prints. And he doesn't paint or anything, but he does. But this is actually like an etching that he did. Like and I don't know. I love the geometry of it. I love that it's not perfect, but it kind of grabs your eye, kind of sucks you in, almost like some sort of a void, if you will. The angles in it aren't necessarily they kind of work, but they kind of don't, and it sort of plays with your eyes a little bit, and I really like that.
Yeah.
It really was just a visual choice. He makes these really great. I don't see if I have. He does some. I don't have it up on the wall, but
Mm.
he does like prints of like cut down trees. He'll roll ink on them and do prints of the grain of the wood, and he just does very interesting types of art. And he showed me this, and I was like, that looks so cool. I think that's going to be our album cover. So
Yeah.
yeah, just
And I
that was
think
it.
it makes sense with post-hardcore because post-hardcore it's not meant to be like perfect or super pristine type of music.
I
It's
agree.
yeah, like if it's like super pristine, it's not post-hardcore, and punk, no one listens to punk because it sounds perfect. Like no, no, no. That's what prog rock is for.
Yeah, I
Yeah, no,
agree.
no. Punk it's all about like the attitude and there's a lot of like in this record, there's a lot of attitude and 90s influence, but also like I think yeah, the lyrics are relatable and the songs are not overly complicated. But yeah, I like it. It has that vibe that it would be great listening to them live. Like, it's a shame that CBGB no longer exists. Yeah,
Yeah. I actually
because
got to play in CBGBs before they kicked the bucket, actually.
nice. I went. I never got to see it. But I know it. How small was it?
It's tiny. It was just like any place in the city, basically. It was a classic punk joint. You walk in and there's a bar there's bar, stage, standing room, crappy bathroom,
Oh
classic.
yeah, yeah. Those type of, like, where you go to a bathroom and like you're like thinking just by looking at the bathroom you'll catch a disease or something.
Yeah, yeah.
Because it's
There's plenty of places that carry on the reign of Dirty Punk Club. I mean, there's the Meat Locker in New Jersey is definitely I would name that one of my all-time favorite, like grody punk venues or hardcore venues. It's great. And there's still plenty of places to play in the city as well. So
yeah. There's
I
something about,
actually
like, yeah.
I actually book shows. I run a karate school, and
Oh, nice.
I actually book shows in my basement. So that's something also that, like, we kind of grew up doing, around here. It's like, we're not in the city, and we maybe don't want to drive an hour and a half. And, to make something happen locally, you kind of just have to do it. So, you'll book shows in your apartment, or you'll book shows in your house, or in this case, in the basement of my business. So
Yeah, no, that's very DIY, and that's like when you think of like hardcore, post-hardcore music, like I can't imagine that music being played in a arena rock setting. I don't know. It's like hardcore is meant to be played in tiny spaces.
yeah, it's got to be in
Uh,
your face.
yeah, yeah. I couldn't like imagine like going like singing in a huge stadium because I think it would be lost. And I think, yeah, that's almost all hardcore like hardcore band play in smaller venues because it's like a music. I know it's more of a niche market that I know that people who like hardcore is a niche, like it's some certain type of people, because if they're like really like the really like super popular like arena rock bands. Well, that's I like everything, but there's people that
Yeah,
only
me too.
like like arena rock stuff. But yeah, no, I've seen a lot of like hardcore shows. I'm originally from Puerto Rico, so I saw Sick of It All and some other
Nice.
bands. And it's just fun because it's in your face and you're like right there, you feel the sweat. And
It's the
that's what
best.
hardcore needs to be all about. Like that's I think the energy of it, it's no other like musical genre has that energy that hardcore has. So how do you see the hardcore scene and the post-hardcore scene right now in 2022? How has it evolved for you?
Oh, well, I mean, honestly, eh, the scene in general, I mean, we're always trying to do something here. I think there's a lot of really cool stuff happening around the country. Unfortunately, not around me or us. There's definitely pockets in the city of really great bands. There's a band called Peak that's doing really well, and putting out great stuff. And then there's a fest actually that um, it's like a DIY fest that's starting to kind of really blow up, called New Friends Fest, that I recently found out about. And a lot of bands and friends bands that I know of are involved with that, and I'm trying to get involved in any way I can, because like you said, it is a very niche kind of style of music. You don't play this, anything like that. I know we're not really a hardcore band, or we're a mishmash of whatever.
A
But
big splash, yeah, of like
yeah,
alternative with like punk and
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
definitely. We yell, I yell a lot,
Yeah, but
but
if punk is the same,
it's the
it's
energy,
music
right?
to be, yeah, it's energy. Like
Yeah,
punk and hardcore are like they're like they're like kind of like similar but with some differences.
for sure.
But I think they both have the same attitude.
Yeah, and I
Only
think
that punk has evolved for because then you had the pop punks and
Sure.
different things. But
Every little
hardcore,
genre that comes with it. Yeah.
yeah, but hardcore, I've never heard. I don't think I will, unless someone that would be interesting if someone invented pop hardcore.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I mean, there's a few. I mean, I can think of a few bands that
Oh,
might fit the
Turnstile.
bill.
I
But
think Turnstile right now could be the one that's doing that.
yeah, yeah, possibly. But yeah, back to what you were saying. I think more it's more of a national kind of a thing now where like I said, like I think New Friends Fest is out of Canada actually, and then they did a little kind of jump into Chicago. I don't want to talk too much about what I don't know, but
No, yeah, that happens. Yeah.
basically, yeah, a lot of bands that I know and bands I don't know are gravitating kind of towards these it, like you said, it's a niche listener, so it's a niche fest, right? It's a DIY fest. There's bands that all pretty much sound, they don't sound different, but they're about the same thing. They're about community, about coming together, and I think that they're getting very successful. I would love to be a part of it someday. I think I
When is
sent them
this?
an email.
Where are they doing this festival?
I believe it was in Canada. Like I said, I'm not 100%
Yeah,
sure. I
no,
want to say Toronto, but I'm not 100%. I'd have to look it up.
yeah, I haven't heard of it, but yeah, it sounds like an interesting festival. So
Yeah,
what's coming up next for Laces Out? So you're releasing the album.
yeah.
Are
We're
you
gonna
doing
do a
some
string of shows.
shows? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're gonna do a string of shows. We have 4 or 5 booked, and then we're doing a short run with this pretty cool band. Um, I also love a band called Unwound. I don't know if they're kind of a they're I would call them the Seattle's version of Fugazi. Some people would hate me saying that, I'm sure, but they're almost around the same time period, a little darker, a little more angular, I would say, more kind of medium volume. And they have that kind of, you know, almost like a Thurston Moore like vocal style, like very kind of lazy almost sounding. Like
Very Sonic Youth.
yeah, a little bit, but not Sonic Youth, more noisy, very noisy actually.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. If they're probably one of my top 5 favorite bands. Unwound, Fugazi, At The Drive-In.
So
I
you
miss
guys
them.
are doing a run together with them.
No, no, God, no, no. I'm going to see
Okay.
them. I'm going to
Oh,
see Unwound. But another band from Maine called F's, which they share that love of that style of music. We're gonna do a little short run, and then we're actually gonna Unwound's playing their first show in like 20 years, and we're
oh
gonna go
wow.
see them in New York. So yeah, it's gonna be cool.
Yeah, there's the thing right now with with the internet and streaming, it's easier to find more music, but it's also harder to get lost in the mix because
Oh my
there's so
gosh.
much stuff out there
Yeah, it's
that you
crazy.
like. At least I like to dig and explore, but most music listeners can be lazy as fuck, and just like listen to okay, these are like the top bands. So yeah, I love that I get to do this and discover bands that I probably didn't know, and I think I love discovering new stuff. I think it's great, and sometimes some of the best albums of the year are not the best known bands.
Yeah,
Like when you,
that could happen for sure.
yeah, when you dig in
It's
the
like that with
underground, yeah.
it really comes back to communicating and talking to your friends, right? Like how did you find new bands when you were a kid? Is that you talk to your friend and your friend said, I got
Hmm.
this tape from this band that I saw and check them out, and then you hear this style of music, you're like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. And you keep going to shows and you find more bands, and when things like Spotify, or not Spotify, Kaza and Napster were out, you were downloading all these punk bands and that you probably would have never listened to. um Unfortunately we were stealing their music, but I think it did more good than bad because even talking like like Fat Records, or even like I can't remember what they called the other guy. There was they used to put out like once a year, they put out like a sampler of all the bands, like Fat Music for Fat People Volume 5 or
Yeah,
whatever.
I remember like Punkorama or
Yeah,
something.
Punkorama
Yeah,
too. That was,
yeah.
yeah, that was it. So you'd hear those bands, and then you'd go on the internet and you type them in and you download their whole record, or you find more bands like them. And I think even now with Spotify, right? Like Spotify will just give you shit to listen to, right? Like, oh, you like this, you like that, here's a whole playlist for it. But I still find that I rather create playlists with my friends on Spotify than listen to what Spotify tells me to listen to. So it's like it's kind of mixing. Like on the one hand, like, oh, you're just playing into the algorithm and the AI, and they're just going to give you everything you want. But on the other hand, there is still a way to like use these platforms in a way that like you're still sharing music with your friends. I have maybe 4 or 5 playlists right now that me and a couple of friends are always adding something to, or, oh, have you heard these guys? Have you heard those guys? I'm still finding new bands to this day. And it's still something I have a huge passion for. Because there's always something that's going to influence me, to continue writing, to continue playing music, find that new band that hits really hard, or that just has I love math rock too, like like all that. You mentioned prog rock before. I think like math rock is like the derivative of prog rock. It's like a little punky, but also like still sort of nerdy. So
There's so many styles, and I
yeah,
remember back in the day, like when there was no streaming services, you had the mixtape, like the tape, and you
exactly. Yeah,
and you would like share tapes with friends,
sure.
and like, hey, I've been listening to these bands, and you keep them. So yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's the same concept, only more digital these days. But yeah, I think people just need to, like. There's people that don't like to be taken out of their comfort zone and listen to new stuff. But I love discovering new bands, and like sometimes I listen to something. If I don't like it, then okay, I will listen to it. But
Sure.
sometimes I discover like bands. I've been like the last. I've been very into like shoegaze lately,
Oh,
and
sure.
like digging in. And I didn't know there was so many shoegaze bands now.
So
uh
many.
there's so many, and so I've been really getting into it, and because it's, I like all types if it's, I just care if it's good. I'll listen to it. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's an exciting time in music, because like right now, like it's easier to get your music out there. I think it's easier to put it out. I think it's harder maybe to get people to give a shit and sit down and listen to it, because right now the attention span. So I think it's good for post-hardcore because your songs are not super long.
Yeah.
It's bad for prog metal
Yeah.
with like super long songs. Like, yeah, they're not gonna listen to that song.
Yeah. But prog fans are like metal fans. They're pretty
Yeah.
diehard. So I think
Oh
they'll
yeah,
always have their market.
they always have their market. Yeah.
I got a cool band for you. It's right in the mix. They're actually pretty big. You might have heard of them. True Widow.
Actually, no.
So I believe they got, it was a couple years back, but they got signed to Relapse not too long ago. But they have some really cool stuff. It's almost like Western mixed with like almost stoner rock and shoegaze. I would call it stoner gaze.
True.
It's great.
Well,
True
after
Widow.
I'm done with this, I'm gonna go listen to that.
I would say your first song you should listen to is a song called All You Need. It's blow your
You
mind.
need,
It's awesome.
yeah. And what's the name of the band again? So like
True Widow.
True Widow. Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna check them out because that mixture sounds interesting.
I'm gonna chat it to
So
you.
yeah. So Edmund, it's been great chatting with you about Laces Out and the album that's gonna be out this Friday. So people, check them out if you like post-hardcore punk type of music. You will dig Laces Out, and they're not from New York City. They're from Orange County, New York. I didn't know there was an Orange County in New York.
Yeah, there's one in California and New York.
Yeah, there's one. Yeah,
There's
it's
probably there's
interesting.
other ones too. I mean, there's like all these Springfields, right? Like that's why The Simpsons, because there's like a bunch of
Yeah.
Springfields in the country. It's like anything, you know.
Yeah. So the debut album is called Here at the Ashram. So for you nerds of Ace Ventura, you will know it's an Ace Ventura reference. I had no idea. I just knew when I saw the name Laces Out, I just remembered that line from from
Of
the
course.
movie. You know what would be super cool? Like if you did a music video and Jim fucking Carrey dressed like Ace Ventura on the video. Like I remember Cannibal Corpse was in the first Ace Ventura movie.
Yeah, you know, so there's a great story about that. So Jim Carrey actually during that time in his life was obsessed with death metal, loved
Yeah,
death
I
metal.
heard.
So he asked Cannibal Corpse to play and to come and be a part of the movie, and they couldn't at the time because they were on tour. So he stopped production of the movie and waited for them basically to do that scene with them. So like that goes just, you know,
Oh,
he like
that's
had to
amazing.
have them in the movie and like he loved it so much. Yeah.
And you know what's so incredible about that? That you know, like a lot of people discovered Cannibal Corpse because of that movie. Like
Sure.
because
Yeah.
there's people that never listened to death metal and probably saw that and were like, what the hell is this? At the time,
Yeah.
I think that's the first time I was, and I saw Cannibal Corpse that on that movie, and I just thought, oh my God, this is the most brutal thing I've ever heard.
Yeah, it's awesome. There's actually deleted scenes of them playing even more and him like jumping around in the mosh pit and all that kind of stuff too. So yeah, it's pretty great. I love it.
Yeah, that's a great story. So yeah, it would be awesome if if he like appeared in your in your music video. I know, yeah, it's not gonna be like easy to get Jim Carrey nowadays, but yeah, that would have been
It's
that
never
would
gonna
be awesome.
happen.
No, it's not gonna happen. It's just wishful thinking.
Yeah, of
Like
course.
yeah, nice, a nice to have, if you will.
Yeah.
So so people, Laces Out out this week. So if you like post-hardcore punk, go check them out. And they're gonna be having some shows. When are the shows? Because you said that you're doing shows, but you never said when are they.
Sorry about that. Yeah. We're let's see. We have a show tomorrow night for the release at actually an old schoolhouse in Warwick, New York, called Dock Fry Community Center. It's actually an all age space run by um, kids, which is pretty cool. So they book shows, they screen print their own flyers, and we're going to be playing there with them. So that's really exciting. And we have a show coming up in January. No, nothing in December. January 8th, we're playing in the city. I think it's Barfreda.
Nice.
With a bunch of really cool bands, hundreds of hours on the bill. I'm just looking up the flyer so I don't sound like a jerk. Okay, we're playing with Peak at Bar Freda in Queens, New York on the 7th of January. With Peak, hundreds of AU, which hundreds of astronomical units. That band is amazing. Peak is amazing. Trophy Hunt, which I haven't heard yet, but I'm sure, you know, I'm going to check them out. And a new band got put on the bill called Thin. And that's on January 7th. And then we're playing at the Meat Locker with unannounced bands on January 28th, I think. And
That's fun.
then we're doing our short run in February. We should be doing Albany. I'm not sure about the venue yet, though. We're playing Albany, my basement, Dojo Dungeon. You could follow Dojo Dungeon on Instagram. It's at Dojo Dungeon, it's right there. And then I think we're going to be trying to play Philly as well in that run. We don't have the venues figured out quite yet, though. But those are the shows.
Nice. I'm sure it'll be up somewhere, and I'll put the link in the description so people can get the record if they want it on vinyl and
Sick.
so what. So people, Edmund, thank you for your time again, and hope you have a great kick-ass show, and best of luck with the album release.
Thank you, Hector. Have a good day, man.
Yeah. So until next time, people, this is Hector, the Shield doing a couch, and I'll see you all right here on the couch. Thank you and good night.